Hi, beloved. Prophetess Karen Pina here. You are on the Making blog, and we're continuing in the mentoring in the area of glory in finances. And today, we're going to be talking about if you have been mastered by mammon. Have you been mastered by mammon? You see, when you look at Luke 16, you'll find an unrighteous steward there. And the steward did not want to manage the finances of the king well. And as you continue to look at the story, what you'll find is that, as in all cases, there were three different stewards. Two were righteous and one was not righteous. The two that were righteous because they took what the king gave them and managed it appropriately. They actually did not take it and hide it. They weren't fearful, but they were willing and obedient to do something with what the king gave them. Well, the unrighteous steward did not do that. He, out of fear, took it and hid what he gave him. You'll find a similar passage of scripture in Luke 19, and I'll be jumping back and forth between those two passages of scripture because there's such a parallel between how we handle our king's finances. All right, so back to Luke 16, you'll notice that in that passage of scripture, the unrighteous steward was confronted by the king, and the king basically said, "You've been mismanaging my finances, and you've been squandering away the wealth that I've given you, and I'm going to kick you out. You're no longer going to be my steward." And so what he did was he called up every person that this particular king um, had out with loans and all the debts that they had incurred with the king. And he said, "How much do you owe?" And each person said what they owed, and he decreased that amount of what they need to pay the king. And the king said, "Wow, you are a good steward in that sense, because the children of the world are wiser than the children of light." And so, and then it goes on to talk about how we need to make sure that we make friends with mammon so that we'll have a place to live. So what this steward did was he showed favor, kindness, and grace to those who owed the king money, so that in return he could have a place to stay when he was kicked out of the king's palace. And it goes on to talk about he who is faithful in little will be faithful in much, and he who is faithful in much obviously is going to be faithful with that much more. And going back to have has mammon mastered you, the question of today's post, many of us will probably answer that question at face value at no. But what I have found is that the longer and the closer you walk in the light, his glory, the darker the holes in your heart become. Stuff that you didn't even know was in there shows up. And so, of course, none of us would admit at face value that mammon has mastered us. But if you look at our actions, as in the actions of this unrighteous steward, you will see that his actions proved that he did not even like the king. As a matter of fact, it says that he hated the king and did not want the king to rule over him, which is exactly why he did not manage the finances appropriately. So, how about you? We all say we love him. Well, he says to us, "If you love me, keep my commandments. If you love me, obey my word. If you love me, do my will. If you love me, manage what I give you as a good steward." So in light of that, many of us hate him. Not because with our lips we say, "I love you," but our actions demonstrate that indeed we do hate him. So you can only serve one master, and it's going to be either mammon, money, uncertain riches, or it's going to be Yahweh himself. You will either show honor to one master or the other. And so when you look at how you're managing finances, does it illustrate that mammon has mastered you? Does it illustrate that you truly are in love with him like you say you are? Or does it illustrate that you mismanage your finances, that you don't budget, that you're out shopping during this Christmas season that so many professing Christians like to celebrate, and you're buying things frivolously. You're squandering away the wealth that He's given you in the midst of time that we live in, which are the last days, where it says that we should be showing benevolence or kindness, especially to those of the household of faith. We should be in a position like Joseph, where we are storing up for the famine, both spiritual and natural, so that we can be an island and or an oasis that people can come to and find spiritual wealth, find wholeness, find prosperity, find salvation, find deliverance, and find money for their needs, to meet their needs during the time that we are living in. Well, if you're out doing all this shopping for people who already say they know Him, then no, you're not managing what He has given you well. When there are people all around the world right now who are starving, who don't have the basics like water to drink, sustenance. They don't have things in the natural that it requires to meet their basic needs. So start looking around at how you're managing the wealth that He's given you. You might be saying, well, I don't have any wealth. Well, according to many, we are wealthy. According to what most have, we are wealthy. But it's not that we aren't wealthy in the amount that we have. It's what are we doing with what we have? What are we doing with what we have? So take a look at that, and it will tell you whether mammon has mastered you. For you know, where your heart is, there your treasure will be also. You want to get a good picture of who you're honoring. Take a look at your checkbook. Take a look at those debit and credit card statements. Take a look. Take a look. I'm going to peek over here at my notes and just see if I've covered everything He wanted me to tell you today. He wants us to be faithful rulers. And you know, we ended the last post by saying that He's not going to be releasing wealth to those who He can't trust. And you know, while He loves us, our trust must be proven. That's right. How are you managing your wealth? Even on your job or even in your business? Are you stealing time? Are you faking the amount of hours that you're actually putting in, but expecting to get paid for the amount of hours that you said that you would work? Are you an unrighteous steward? Has mammon mastered you? Has it mastered you? Who are you really serving? You see, you, just like I, would probably not admit that we hate Him. We wouldn't come right out and say that. But when we start looking at some real specific examples of how we are being unrighteous stewards, it shows that indeed we do hate Him by our actions. And you know what He wants us to do? All leaders. He's looking in this season and in every season beyond. He's looking for the Davids. That's right. He's looking for those leaders that will just fess up and say, you found me where I am. There's a dark spot in my eye. I am not single-eyed in my devotion. I am not singly eyed in terms of focusing on you. Actually, my eyes are kind of wandering all over the place, lusting after things. I'm a lover of money. I am coveting stuff that you've said it's not time for me to have. So, He wants David's, and He wants us to just say, guilty. I'm guilty. And He stands, yet when we do that, to cast everything, every sin and everything that we have done against Him. Because even David said, against Thee and Thee only have I sinned. Yes, there may be other people involved in your financial mismanagement, but the bottom line is it's against Him and Him only that we sin, that you are sinning if you are mastering your finances with mammon. In other words, you're not submitted. You're just like that unrighteous ruler. You don't want Yahweh. That's God. You don't want him to rule over you. You actually hate the fact that he would tell you what to do with the money that he's blessed you with. So he's looking for those Davids, those that would allow him to cleanse them and admit, I have sinned. I have allowed mammon to master me in areas that, no matter how small or subtle they are, you are not the one that I'm honoring. Wash me. He stands ready to wash, to cleanse, to cast all that away from us as far as the east is from the west, and remember it no more. He stands loving us with open arms, ready to bring us into his glory. That's right. Bring us into his nature on how to manage wealth and finances. Bring us into his character as it relates to stewarding over what he has given us. Are you benevolent? Do you even care about others that are starving, that don't have water to drink? Or is it all about you and yours? But he's blessed you with more than enough, but you spend it, you squander it on things frivolously that are really unnecessary, and you really don't need those things. They're wants and they're nice to haves, but they're not needs, for your needs have already been met, but you squander away the rest. So, has mammon mastered you? That's what he wants to know today. And I am the messenger bringing the question. He's asking it through me today. He's looking for Davids, those that will allow him to cleanse them, that will admit their fault, not to me as the prophet or to anyone, but to him, that he might restore, that he might cleanse, that he might even deliver. Bring you into that place where your hands are clean and your heart is pure, so that he can release the well into your hands. Prophetess Pina here, signing out.